A promising virtual reality startup closes its doors. A Seattle sports star is the king of social media, and you'll never guess what crashed into the Space Needle this week. It's the Weekend Geek from GeekWire. I'm Todd Bishop, along with Monica Nicklesburg and Taylor Soper, GeekWire reporters. It's great to have you both here.
It's great to be here.
Thanks to everybody who's joining us on the podcast, on Kyra Radio, and we're also video recording this to be able to put it all over the place on Facebook and YouTube. So thanks to everybody who's joining us on that. Okay, let's jump into it. It was a big week for news.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, good deal. So first up, Envelop VR. Taylor, this is a company that you covered. You got a chance to actually experience their virtual reality technology. First off, what did they do?
Well, when we think of virtual reality, we sometimes think of games or entertainment, but this was more focused on the employee, the worker, and working in a virtual environment with virtual screens, basically. So you put your headset on, and you're in this virtual world with many different Windows screens. So you could have an Excel spreadsheet on one screen and then kind of move that around in the virtual world and get your Chrome tab on another. And the idea is to help you work more efficiently, work faster, be able to visualize different things. Work in virtual offices with different people, maybe see their avatar or something. But, this company didn't quite, maybe their timing was off, or we don't know exactly what.
Well, I can tell you this just in. John
Okay.
Cook
Breaking.
was at a conference today where Bob Berry, the CEO of Envelop VR, spoke. And John said that John buttonholed him afterward, and he said the market did not mature fast enough, and their focus on Windows desktop was not the right bet. So that's really interesting. But as you said, the whole idea was almost like multi-monitors on steroids because it's in a virtual environment. So rather than having actual physical screens in front of you, you have a bunch of virtual screens. I love the concept.
I do too. I feel like it would be really useful, especially if you're somebody who always has a million tabs open this way. I mean, they're around you, right? It's not like it's just in front of you. It surrounds you. So you can kind of go to Microsoft over here. You can go to your email browser over here.
Exactly. And there's a lot of promise for this. Microsoft, with its HoloLens, is actually pursuing something very similar. So one thing that may have sunk this company was the threat from these larger technology players coming in and potentially co-opting or preempting what they were trying to do.
That's what I was thinking when you say that Windows, when Bob Berry says that Windows wasn't the right platform. I'm wondering what was the right platform, or maybe it was the fact that Microsoft is a big competitor here.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Bob Berry's been a successful entrepreneur. It'll be interesting to see what he does next.
Okay, good stuff. So that is Envelop VR. They closed down this past week. One of the interesting stories on the virtual reality front. Next up, you'll never guess who heads up and leads the social media charge nationally. This was a ranking of social media prowess among professional athletes. We're showing him on the screen behind us for folks watching or listening on the radio or podcast. Who is it, Taylor?
Go Hawks. No time to sleep. Also known as Russell Wilson.
So Russell Wilson, this surprised me. I mean, he seems just kind of like an ordinary social media person, but he must be mastering Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. Or is it Sierra, his fiance?
It's totally Sierra.
What do you attribute this to?
I mean, Sierra's definitely part of it, and just in terms of his popularity. He does some cool things that fit very well for social media. Like, he goes to the Seattle Children's Hospital every week and visits the kids, and he's always posting pictures from there. He gets new shoes from Nike, and he puts them on and posts pictures there. So, and of course, it's not all Russell. He's got a pretty good team behind him helping him out. So I don't know what goes into it, and he probably wouldn't have been top of mind when I thought who was the most engaging. But Richard Sherman, actually, for me, would be more engaging. But he also made the list.
He did. Okay. Who else made the list?
Robinson Cano made the list of all athletes, but I think they separated out NFL and then total, or all different sports. Help me out, Taylor.
Yeah, I think J.J. Watt, another good defensive player in the NFL. Just it's kind of a random list, but they all have a lot of followers. They're very popular, and they're using social media to build their brands, which is interesting if you look at it from a marketing perspective in terms of the individual athlete. We were at CES last week, and they're kind of talking about how every athlete can become their own brand now, and they don't need to speak to a journalist to help tell their story, which is pretty interesting as it relates to our jobs. But it's very true, and we're seeing some athletes really use it really well to just increase their brand and their popularity.
So here is the top 10. Russell Wilson, Odell Beckham Jr. That makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Circus catches. He probably has a lot of video on his various feeds and everything.
Yeah, he just did a funny Lyft undercover where he poses as a Lyft driver and
there
does
you go.
that kind of stuff.
That seems to be going around.
Yeah, exactly.
J.J. Watt, Rory McIlroy, Conor McGregor, LeBron James, Tiger Woods, Richard Sherman, Tom Brady, and Rob Gronkowski. So Gronk. So there you go. So going into a big weekend here, and those are some of the stars of Twitter, at least.
Yep.
Good deal. So speaking of football, there was a very interesting piece of news this past week on the patent front. There is a high-tech football helmet that Intellectual Ventures is trying to patent along with Bill Gates. Taylor, you covered this, and there's actually some additional information about this. What are they trying to do here based on the patent?
Yeah, this is really, really interesting. So based on the patent, they are trying to create basically a helmet and a way to test the quality and safety of the helmet after it's been beaten up. So there's a bunch of sensors based on this patent on the helmet. So, hypothetically, when you get hit on the football field, it'll trigger a sensor and then go to like a laptop on the sideline that will tell the coach or the team doctor, hey, this athlete needs to be checked or this helmet needs to be checked based on the impact.
Is it instant? Like it's in real time?
In real time, right. That's what I got from the patent. Now, there is actually a Bloomberg story from 2015 that interviewed one of the inventors who was working on this. It was very vague, but he took it to the next level where basically his idea is that there can be something like a rod that connects the helmet to the shoulder pad. And the instant that a certain level of impact is made, that rod would shoot down into the shoulder pad and lock in your neck, basically.
Wow.
And the idea is to prevent a very serious neck injury or perhaps concussion. So it's a little unclear how exactly that worked, but very interesting that Intellectual Ventures based in Bellevue and Mr. Bill Gates himself is at least interested in fixing what has become a really big crisis in the NFL and other sports, not just pro, but also college, high school, and youth.
Yeah, and the idea is it'd be better to break your collarbone if this happened to do that than to have a traumatic head injury.
Exactly.
So that's the general idea. Interesting that they're pursuing this. Intellectual Ventures is pretty controversial, but they have these brainstorming sessions that Bill Gates takes part in. So you see his name pop up on a lot of their patents.
But he hasn't done a ton with sports tech in the past, right?
No, which is why this is interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Bill G and other big time tech guys get into sports. We're kind of seeing this pattern already with in various ways, whether it's Steve Ballmer buying the Los Angeles Clippers in the NBA or other tech guys investing their money. But this is really cool seeing the innovators really put their effort into helping the game and preserving the game's safety. So very cool.
Let's jump into our next story, which was, in fact, the top story on GeekWire this week based on number of readers, clicks. That was Amazon and Jeff Bezos at the Golden Globes. Monica, you pay really close attention to this area.
I love TV.
Yeah. So who's got the lead here? Because you've got Jeff Bezos sitting in the front row with Matt Damon.
I know, and look how happy he looks. Like, this is the best Jeff Bezos photo I've ever seen.
So what happened at the Golden Globes this past week?
So there was a joke about Jeff Bezos. They said the host, who is Jimmy Fallon, I think, said, Jeff Bezos is here in the audience. He actually arrived yesterday, but there was no one there to sign for him, kind of making fun of Amazon's core business, which is package delivery and e-commerce. They won 1 Golden Globe. Billy Bob Thornton won Best Actor for Goliath, which is kind of a drama series they have about a washed-up lawyer, making a comeback. But they were nominated for 11 if you count all of the sort of different entertainment enterprises that they have their hands in.
So does this matter anymore? Should we count the number of Netflix nominations and Golden Globe Awards or Emmys versus Amazon? Or it seems like they're pretty much neck and neck in terms of the actual content.
I don't think it matters that much because precisely for that reason, because it makes it seem like they're neck and neck, where really I think Netflix has a big lead here.
Oh, you do? Okay,
I do.
So what about Netflix in particular do you think is better than Amazon Prime Video in terms of the original content? Because that's what we're talking about here.
Right. Well, the volume of original content is just so much bigger. They want to move to have at least 50% of their business be Netflix originals, and so they're just so aggressively releasing new high-quality stuff that they've got this tremendous lead. I think there was a study recently where they showed that when it comes to originals, Netflix is way, way above its competitors.
Just in terms of the chatter too, at least among my friends or peers are on social, just you hear a lot more about the Netflix shows versus Amazon will win a Golden Globe for it, and you're like, what was that? I've never even heard of that show. I didn't even know it was out there. So at least from a marketing and just exposure standpoint, Netflix kind of has the lead there, and they've had that for a while.
So nobody's saying I'm gonna come over and we'll prime and chill.
Prime and chill is not
Prime
a
and
thing.
chill. Hey, that might be a good idea for Amazon's marketing team.
See if they can get that. So the shows that were up for nominations at the Golden Globes this past week from Amazon were Manchester by the Sea, The Salesman, Goliath, and a bunch of its TV shows as well. So lots going on there. What is your favorite Amazon Prime show so far?
Well, I really liked Man in the High Castle for the first season. The second season did not do it for me. But actually, my favorite Amazon show that they've ever made is Good Girls Revolt, which is this really awesome look at the women's movement in the 1970s and sort of what happened at Newsweek with the equal employment lawsuit that the women who were working there filed. It was actually canceled. It's shopping around for a new home, and there's sort of some feminist flack from the community there's feminist flack toward Amazon for canceling it, but we'll see. Hopefully it finds a new home because it was a really good show.
Okay. Well, as long as we're talking about football this week, I have to say my favorite Amazon original series was called All or Nothing, a season with the Arizona Cardinals. It was very cool. It was like an extended documentary going behind the scenes of the Arizona Cardinals.
And it gave you a new appreciation. Just I remember you were watching the Cardinals a few months later. Like, I have a new appreciation for the team, and you kind of know the people more, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you watch it too?
I did not actually. I should have, but
Todd was really trying to get me to watch it.
Was I really?
Yeah.
I guess I was talking to the wrong people in the office, but yeah.
Well, Taylor would have been a much better bet than me.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Man in the High Castle. I'll have to try that out. So, but just the first season.
Yeah, it's based on a book, and I think that the first season covers the entire book, and the second season they just ran out of source material and did not recover.
Okay, very cool. All right, well, let's move on to our final story. This is the story we've been teasing for the entire episode. Here is what flew into the Space Needle this past week. We actually have video of it here on the video episode here, so we can go ahead and start that. And this was a drone that was flying high above the Space Needle as workers were preparing for the New Year's Eve celebration, the New Year's at the Needle. And this guy basically blamed it on a call home designation from DJI, but you can see it. Can you imagine if you were one of these workers, it just hovers outside the Space Needle and then goes crashing into it where these guys are working up on the top. If I'm up there, I think this is terrorism.
Yeah,
that's like my first.
Yeah. I'm freaking out too as well. Not only could it have hit one of them and injured them, but what the heck is on the drone itself, and why is it here? It's, I saw this at first and I was just like, wow, this is crazy. But then you think about it and like there's some actual serious implication that can happen, and that's why I think we're seeing the police get involved, and it's a serious matter.
Well, isn't it illegal for it to fly up there?
Yep. So that's a good point. I believe it's 400 feet for recreational drones, and the Space Needle is 605 feet high. So you can see from that perspective, the person who was doing this, who apparently outed himself on Twitter later.
Yep.
19-year-old kid from Seattle who was flying the drone, was doing something not legal,
right,
and unsafe on top of that. And you got to kind of question that excuse about it getting a call home.
Come on.
Designation from DJI. So if you're listening on the podcast or the radio, we will link to that video from the show notes if you haven't already seen it. But big surprise this past week. Space Needle made hay with it, though.
They did. They definitely
did. Their joke was that apparently that tractor beam they installed for drones is actually working now.
Because there have been 3 that have landed on the Space Needle so far.
Yes. Well, it's a popular place, I would imagine, for sort of sightseeing drones.
Yeah, nice angles from that drone camera.
It's true.
It would have been a great video. And that's the other thing. Like, how do they have this video? Well, they got the drone.
Yeah. So, finders keepers, I guess.
Exactly. And now the police have it. All right, good stuff. That is the Week in Geek. For much more, go to GeekWire.com. Also follow us at GeekWire on Twitter. And go to iTunes to subscribe to all of the GeekWire podcasts. Until next time, I'm Todd Bishop.
I'm Monica Nicklesburg.
And I'm Taylor Soper.
We'll talk to you next time on GeekWire, everybody.